Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, Glenn.
Hey, what's up, my brother? I had to stretch.
I know. You having fun? I say that on purpose. You're laughing. Go ahead. Are you having fun?
No, I'm not having fun.
I know. You're amazing.
But
I think you are.
it's very extremely rewarding.
Okay. I think you're having fun.
I'm not even sure what fun is, so I don't know, man.
I know. Hey, we're gonna have some fun this morning. I can almost assure
Let's
you.
have fun. Let's figure out what fun is.
So we got a table for three. Ding,
And
ding,
I'm really
ding.
looking forward to the table for three.
And
it really hits my heart here.
yeah, this one here is means a lot to me. Only because I've been given. We've had author series, right? So we've had a dozen or so authors on the podcast, and they've written from different vantages, and there's links to all their great books in our resource room. And one of the things I do is, if I'm going to have an author on who's wrote a book, I kind of want to read it, you know? I don't want to just, hey, I hear you got a good book there. The reviews look pretty strong, but, you know, I want to really read it. And this book, Hide and Seek by Paul Summers Jr., was a great read for me. We'll get into it a little bit, but I just want to say I feel like I'm friends with Paul now. I mean, that's where the book kind of took me. I feel when I saw him come into the coffee shop this morning, I feel a sense of connectedness.
Like a brotherhood.
Yeah, like a brotherhood, right? Exactly. Because
that's great, man.
Because I know his journey, and he didn't hold back any punches. It is a play-by-play of his journey, the most important years of his journey, which was disastrous, followed by delightful. And so, you know, I don't know how we're going to break through this, Paul, and we've only got a half hour of coffee, but you've got so much hope to share, and that's why I love doing what we do, Glenn, because I you know, life is reality, and the choices we made left us in a real predicament. And we've made a choice now and make a choice on a daily basis to stay sober, and we get a whole different, better deliverable, right? But if people just are out there struggling right now, I hope this episode lets you know that you can get through it, that when life seems to be at its worst point, which it was for me, was for Glenn, and I can honestly say it was for Paul, that there's hope out there. You can get everything you want in life. Maybe not everything, but you get the important things that really matter.
Also known as there is a solution.
There is a solution. That's right. So welcome, Paul. Welcome. We're so grateful to have you this morning.
Grateful to be here. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Glenn. This is good coffee you guys have too.
Oh yeah, yum yum yum. Any coffee is good coffee.
Yeah.
So I want to lead off by asking one question, because I've run into, in my couple of years of sobriety, I've run into a million people, and in the rooms of sobriety, and everyone wants to be an author. Oh, I got a story to tell, right? And Mike felt the same way. Hey, I got a story to tell. This would make a tremendous book, right? Everybody says I should write a book. You wrote a book. You know, you actually did it, and it's 390 some pages. You wrote it, man, and you edited it, and you produced it, and I mean, that's outstanding. What made you write the book?
And I cut 30,000 page words out of that thing.
Yeah, right.
Wow, that's
right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, or my editor did. Okay, so you know, and I didn't write it right away. The story, Hide and Seek, a dad's journey from soulless addiction to soul custody, takes place mostly in my first year of recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And I waited probably 13 years because, you know, I end up with sole custody of my daughter, and man, I'm working 50 hours a week and a sole custodial dad. I don't have any family where I live. My daughter's mom, her grandma on the maternal side ends up finally getting behind sees that I'm in recovery. My daughter's mom still out there 20 years later.
I know. Sad.
So 12 years into doing this, I'm like, okay, maybe I can do this. What do I do with what I lived through? There's not a heck of a lot of dads who, step up, that are in recovery when out of the gate their kids are taken from them. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I got it. I'm seeing us in the rooms, and I'm just like, I've got to share this story. I've got to let people know. I've got to share this hope that, dads can be just as good a parent as moms. Mm-hmm. And, we don't have quite all the resources yet, but we need to get there for each other, and so I waited, like I said, about 12 years until I felt, okay, I can focus on doing this. I'm still raising my kid. I ended up getting remarried, and blended a family.
I saw that at the end of the book in the acknowledgments, and that really made me smile because, as a friend, I want to say you deserve a good relationship, and I'm really glad that happened for you. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. God sent one my direction. We have 3 kids, blended. She had 2 kids, and her ex-husband also an addict that was pretty much an absent father, just like my daughter's mom was an absent mom. Just kind of came in and out. And all 3 kids have type 1 diabetes, so we share it a lot. Like, we are brought together. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
That's awesome. But Paul, let's back up a bit. First of all, it amazes me that you wrote this so far after, because the detail, the detail is so specific. And as I read the first chapters of the book when you were deep into addiction, and I thought, if I'm Department of Family Services, I'm stepping into that situation and taking that kid away from him today, from both of them today, right?
Yeah,
and you said almost the same thing. You knew the environment was bad for your daughter, but yet you were in the throes of addiction, and you recounted and documented the struggle that you had, where you knew you were doing wrong, you didn't want to do wrong, but you kept doing wrong.
Yeah, the disease, right? I mean, one way I was able to depict that time so well is I went through. I used to journal all the time.
I know, I saw that. That's See, Glenn, journaling's not just for gals.
I know, dude. That's so funny.
Yeah, Glenn. Yeah. So
Mikey loves the journal.
I looked all those things up, and I mean, I remember bits and pieces.
Sure.
I also went through a lot of ways to refresh my memory. I'm one of these kind of sort of pack rat people. Like, so I lived as a musician for years, and the only way I could claim income was like having receipts for everything. So I still save receipts for everything. And you look at a receipt and it's like, oh yeah, that
triggers
the night
that memory, right?
We were at McDonald's, and my daughter was upset, and my wife was like, "Oh, this and that," and I drove off. I drove right out of the line, like over the curb and stuff, like this erratic behavior. Like it sparked that memory, and that was one of the things that my now ex, brought up in the courtroom. Like he has these erratic behaviors. He drove right out of the drive-through line.
Right.
That's a madman. We're not safe around him.
Right.
And yeah, but those kind of memories, the different things just spark it. So I did my best at recounting it all.
You did really, really well, and I love the the book is titled Hide and Seek, and at one juncture when you were trying to get sober, you were doing it. You were doing sober life, and but the living conditions had her all over the place. You didn't have custody, and she wanted to play hide and seek with you. And as a father, I think any father, mother listening, hide and seek is a game of their. I mean that's a kid's world. Is hide and seek.
Yeah. There's a situation where my parents, who are friends with my daughter's mom's parents, they actually arranged for me to spend maybe an hour with my daughter, who I had been served a restraining order that a judge later turned out.
Rejected.
It's early. Rejected. And so I had about an hour to see my daughter, who I hadn't seen in the longest time. I had never seen her, which was only 3 weeks. I know there's men out there that, they're looking at months. They don't get to see their kids. And it was such a stressful thing for my daughter that she hid from me. Mm-hmm. And at the end of all that, when I decided to make it a game, because I thought that would ease her stress, so I played into, I think she was hiding out of stress, and then I turned it into a game, which brought her back to it being playful, and it's safe. Daddy's safe, no matter what she heard, from the maternal family, because I don't know what that was. And it was safe. And then it was like, the bond is for always, and, it was just a tender moment where I brought her out of that by not being selfish, by just saying, this is about her. This is about seeing her and reminding her, Dad's always going to be here. And, man,
it's good stuff. It reminds me, Glenn, pulling you into it a bit here, Glenn, because you didn't have custodial fights for your kids, but what you had was separation from your kids. And it wasn't until much later in life that you had that moment that Paul just talked about, that tender moment on the dance floor of your daughter's wedding, when you knew you had kind of come full circle and you knew she trusted you again, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, for me, it was my choice. I mean, I chose booze over and it's hard for me to even say that today,
isn't it?
Because it's just so not what I'm about in my heart and soul. But I mean, I chose booze many, 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 many times over my kids, and I had the opportunity to see them and had the opportunity to be with them. And I'd be drunk, or I'd be hungover, or I'd want to drink, right? And I knew it at the time. I mean, I knew, but half the time I was making those decisions, I was drunk. And I'm telling you, the path back was way long, but I was patient, and it was worth every minute because it made it that much better.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I have a friend. I have a friend now that I actually met him through a radio interview. This guy Roger, and he's got 20-something years sober now. And same thing with him. I mean, he said, I'll admit, I was absent. I kept choosing the bottle, and he's still repairing those relationships. But like 2 of his kids live with him now as adults, and so the trust gets built back. We got to never give up, And I applaud your courage, Glenn, for that. That's not an easy thing to admit, I feel real fortunate that I wasn't that dad, but at the same time, I have no harsh feeling towards my daughter's mom. I still, there were times my daughter and I, we prayed for her, and she can still repair that bond. It's up to her. She got to get out of her head, though,
Yeah.
As long as you're alive, it's never too late.
That's right. I was impacted by that part of your book too. That just you have every opportunity to bash, but that is not the road you've taken. You've taken the path of healing on all levels. And the other thing that really jumped out at me, and I don't know if Glenn can relate, but maybe you can, Paul, and that is that I complained for many years through my addiction that my wife was so square. Right? How could she not be partying with me, right? Well, you got what you were looking for. You got your party partner. You had a party partner out there, and so I don't know why I bring that up, other than to say how difficult it would have been for me for my life, because it was inbred in your relationship with your ex. That was part of your lifestyle, man. You guys were doing it together, right? And right. Even right up to birth and post birth, all those moments, and you guys were living it together, but you decided to break off of that path, because as I read it, because you saw the writing on the wall, you were going to lose your daughter, and I'm going to echo what Glenn said. if I didn't have a square wife, I probably would have lost my daughters, right? But she held the unit together and waited for me to come by, and I'm glad she did. That's just my story. But your story, you saw the writing on the wall, and you wanted a family unit with your daughter. You want that relationship. All of a sudden, ultimately meant more to you than that drug and drink.
Yeah.
And you made it was hard for you. It was really, I read it in the words, it was really hard for you to resist using, and you say it so eloquently, it's the battle we all have. It's a disease. It's cunning, it's baffling, it's powerful, it's omnipresent, it's with our friends and our families, and everything is associated with the drug or the drink, and then to step away from that is not an easy thing. It's not like you just pick up and move to a new suburb and call it bliss. It doesn't happen that way.
No. And my early just to let the listeners know, there was a cataclysmic event that took place, which was that my daughter's mom kidnapped her. She kidnapped our daughter and disappeared, and that just pulled the rug out from under, like, all my thoughts of, I'll just stop using for a couple of weeks, because I had done that.
Right.
I'll stop using for a couple of months. I had done that before. I could do that. This had to be, I don't know if any of us have been able to, say, I'm done for good and mean it, because we can't. We just have today.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
But there was no way that I could do this and have my daughter in my life. So I don't remember if I say it in the book or not, but I'm grateful to my daughter's mom for doing that, because that shook me from my disease. That gave me enough clarity to say, I can't use and be a dad. I just can't. It's not possible. Mm-hmm. I'm always going to go into these behaviors and stuff that are not healthy for either one of us. So, that was a good enough, just complete discombobulation for me to surrender and say, I got to try something different. I can't latch on to my old ways. And
because
so
you were physically risking never seeing your daughter again. And
exactly. Yeah. And I wasn't young at the time. I mean, I was 44 when I got sober. So, I knew I did all the things that we do, the geographical, different combinations. I had even stopped drinking for 12 years, but I did everything else. I was at a rave one night with somebody, and this very attractive woman, and she's like, "Hey, have a drink with me," and I'm like, "Oh no, I don't drink." She's like, "You're out of your mind, blazing on ecstasy, and you won't have a drink."
Hey, I have my standards.
That's right.
I have my standards.
I have my standards I live by.
I'm 10 minutes later, I'm throwing up from taking too much ecstasy, but I won't have that drink,
right. Oh,
and,
I love that.
Had to white knuckle something, so everything had to go for sure.
So the one thing I've kind of jotted down and circled and underlined and outlined and is I love hearing folks' stories of what they went through and what kind of drove them and their experience and the strength of what they went through, but then the hope, right? And what I heard was, and part of me as I look at my life and other people's lives that I pay attention to, if you really abide by changing the way you live, you never really know what the outcome's going to be. And I've been given more blessings, from my higher power and from the success of being sober as a superpower than I ever could have dreamed up on my own. Right. So I love when you say, hey, today I'm married, we're blending families. Right. I mean, that's just because I'm doing the same thing, and I never could have crafted that to the level that I have today.
No.
Never. Now, It takes time. I'm amazed at the people that are like, oh, I kneeled down in rehab and the lightning bolt hit and I lived perfect ever since. First of all, I don't believe that. Second of all, that's not my story,
Right.
Yeah.
But I was really excited to hear that part of your story, Paul.
Man, yeah. Thank you. I mean, that's the truth. Whether you're new listening to this, you got a little bit of time. It's like I think I was told early on, by somebody that I looked at as, doing this the way I want to do it is like always, because we veer away from the things that keep us clean, right? We veer away from those things, right? And it's like, just, remember to look at the blessings. The blessings have so much to do. It's the reminder that you've been doing the right thing. The blessings.
Mm-hmm.
It's if it were a ledger, like, okay, so for example, my daughter Lola, she last year got married and had a baby, and her husband is new in recovery, and and I get to be there for him as this this person that I'm an old timer to him. I have 17 years as of last month, and and I get to share that with him, and it's, man, what a blessing that is, that he's now calling me from when he's in group and everything. He's doing meetings. He's in group. He's doing what's called drug court, and so they've got him real busy with working on himself, and he's like, man, sometimes I just it just feels like nothing's going right. And I said, man, those are the times. Just look at the blessings, that we don't want to look at those things. Not, we get, and then that takes over as a disease. It's like, oh man, nothing's going right.
Yeah, right.
Every road's a dead
It's not
end.
worth it. This isn't worth it.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's a big, yeah.
Well, what's amazing is, if I remember in the story, you had an uncle that was in recovery.
Yep.
As well,
Yeah.
and he was kind of a mentor that you just discounted initially, but ultimately you sing high praise of him because he was that rock of sobriety for you that you could kind of look to over all those years, and now you're able to be that rock for somebody else, and that's why I think it's so important. This book, and again, we have many authors on, but this book is a play-by-play of addiction, and then a play-by-play of deliverance from that addiction, and talks about the blessings. And I'm really glad you wrote this book. I really, again, it's a long read. It's a play by play, man. It's you don't cut back on anything, and but it's part of the story that's got you to where you are today. So tell me this, and tell the listeners. Tell us a little bit about the hope that you're living today. So because I know you got a couple other things going. I know you love music, and you love how music interplays into recovery. So let's spend a quick moment talking about that before we cut out here.
Oh, sounds good. So the hope is what I want to share with others. Just to have that hope, to not give up. And also, and I know that hope gets reinstilled when we give back. How can I give back? I wrote a book. I don't know that I'm an author or that I got another book in me. I'm going to try to get it into as many hands as I can. It's not about making money, getting rich doing this. It's about giving people hope. That's why I wrote the book. I want, especially dads, but mostly parents, and then children of alcoholics and addicts. Hopefully they can read that and go, oh, that's what's wrong with my dad or mom. Somebody that loves us doesn't understand. So I tried to include some of the inner workings of the mind in the book, and then so I'm at this place where, okay, I've wrote the book. But I've always been a musician. I've always known that music has been healing, especially in times of darkness for me. And I started just doing, I got a call from a friend, and she was like, hey, I'm going to open a treatment center in Nashville. I'd like you to run a music program here. And I said to myself, I have no idea what that even entails, but oh my God, what an honor, And it turned out the treatment center fell through, but it got me on this road of learning about frequencies and sounds, and how the latest science is showing that they're actually helping addicts and alcoholics in moments of anxiety, withdrawals. And so I I got certified as a sound healer, and now I'm creating this original music that is around this 528 hertz frequencies. I call them songscapes. And I'm starting to perform them for, like, I have this Camp Sober Fest coming up in California next month, which is kind of a big deal. It's all over our recovery media. And I'm kicking off the event with a sound meditation. And I'm just so honored, like, my higher power is blessed me with this ability.
That is awesome. It really is.
Yeah.
It sounds really.
That's great, man.
Would you have a link for your kind of your music ministry, if you will, for what you're doing?
I started off doing this. I called myself a different artist. I'm switching this over. But you can look up Paul Summers Jr. On any of the the music platforms.
Okay.
And you'll see songs that say 528 hertz on them.
Okay.
And so
we'll put links in our resource room.
Just for everybody, that's SUMMERS.
Yes.
Junior.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll put links in the resource room for sure for the book and for your music stuff. Paul, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Mike,
great story, man.
I hope
great impact.
I hope people buy it, read it, and share it with others that in need.
Turn the mess into a message.
And if you don't mind me adding that, I'm so grateful for what you guys are doing for the community, for the recovery community. Like, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts, and it's great. You're really helping.
Thanks, brother.
You as well are giving hope.
One day.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
Thanks, Paul. Have a good day, man.
You too. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.